Hey everybody, we are back with another episode 13. And today we're going to talk about how we fight apathy. Now, apathy is a huge, or I feel like it's always been a huge struggle for me. And growing up, I just always felt like I didn't really care about a lot of things for whatever reason. I just had a lack of interest in a lot of things, in people. Of course, I had my hobbies. I had things that I was passionate about, but there were times where I was just very apathetic to a lot of things too. Maybe apathetic to people, socializing with people, apathetic to maybe my own tasks that I needed to do. So it's something that everybody deals with at a certain degree. And there were stretches in my time or in my life where apathy was huge. It was a huge struggle where I just didn't have a care in the world. I didn't care at all. I didn't have an interest in anything. And it would be around the same time when I would be in that state of depression, when I was really depressed. And you know usually one of the symptoms of being depressed is just not caring about anything. And so it definitely brought a lot of apathy in my life during those stretches. And I always look back and wondered at those times where I felt apathetic about life, about things that I need to get done, or apathetic about what's going on in other people's lives, and caring about the things that they're going through, or in other words, not really caring about it. And that was a huge burden in my life. That's a huge con that I really had to learn to just fight against and deal with. And in this process of becoming a better person, that was one area that was brought to my attention that I really struggle with. And so I wanted to share a little bit about that, of just kind of the apathy that I had to deal with personally. And I could just start off with, just at times, well, I would just say I would start off with just the way I was raised. I always felt like I was raised in an environment where there wasn't a lot of affection. Maybe there was some apathy in, you know, maybe like my family around me didn't really care about what was going on in my life. Or maybe it's not that they didn't care, but they were so busy with what they were doing. They were working long hours, and they weren't really there a lot of times. And it could be portrayed as apathy or being apathetic. Um Not to say that they didn't love and care for me, but you know because there was no interest shown in what I was doing. I think it could be easy to be looked at as being apathetic to what was going on in my life. And so because there wasn't that kind of affection, there wasn't that kind of interest in my life. I was always growing up alone. And when because I didn't have that care and attention. I felt like it rubbed up on me. And um I think it was easy for me to also not care in the things I pursued in. I would have lapses where I was very apathetic to like the things that I was initially interested in. And it was it was difficult for me to keep on going and pursuing goals and tasks that I set for myself, because every time I had a setback, I I felt like there wasn't people around me that cared about what I was doing or what was going on. And because I felt so alone, the apathy, being apathetic, and for me to not care was so easy to come by. And yeah, I think just growing up like that, it was easy for me to just develop a apathetic personality. And when you're always alone, it's so easy also to not really care about what's going on around you, because you're just kind of more consumed to yourself and what you're doing. And even while you're doing your own thing, you could just not care about that either, right? If that makes any sense. And so, because maybe I wasn't attended to a lot growing up, and I felt so alone, um, it was just so easy for me to not care about things. And even more so when I felt so down about myself, when things weren't really going the right way, then it's so much easier for me to just not care about things, and rather than to deal with like adversity or pain or failure or things that really brought me down. Apathy was just seemed to be the best defense mechanism in dealing with a lot of those down moments in my life. And and that could be applied to almost everybody. I mean, if you don't have people tending to your needs, maybe your emotional needs, mental needs, physical needs, whatever the case may be, it's so easy to just not want to care, because you rather not care and not deal with any type of setback or discouragement or pain than actually deal with all that pain and discouragement on your on your own, when it feels so overwhelming and difficult. It's not to say I didn't have people around me, I didn't have friends around me, but when you're alone most of the time and you didn't really grow up in an environment where maybe people weren't that involved in your life, or even in situations where you felt you just kind of distance yourself with people, because you're also at the same time so comfortable being alone, um and not having people around you care for you. Because even that, growing up, it felt a bit strange for me and a little bit foreign, because I was not accustomed to that. And as I got older, that is something that I realized, and I realized that apathy was a huge characteristic of who I was. Just this feeling of not caring at all and not showing interest. And again, that just felt like a defense mechanism in how I dealt with adversity and how I dealt with pain, because maybe that's just I didn't know how to deal with it any other way, um, or to deal with it with a lot of support around me. Because if I had that kind of support, if I had, uh, you know, my family more there for me, then I wouldn't have to resort to some being so apathetic about things, and I could feel more encouraged and more love to do the things that I need to do in life to overcome those challenges. And a lot of times, when you learn on your own, you kind of have to learn the hard way, and um, you take a lot of missteps along the way. And so that was difficult. It's difficult dealing with that apathy, because it's still it's still something that lingers and still something I struggle with. You know, I just remember just being adolescent and just being so emotional or just not caring and just especially when things weren't going my way, it's just so much easier just to not care. Like why should I care and invest in things if I'm only gonna get let down? Like um just doesn't seem worth it. But the problem with that is when you're in that apathetic state and you don't care about, let's say just for yourself, you don't care about the things that the tasks that are in front of you, goals that you set, then you kind of really live aimlessly in life. Like you lose that desire, you lose that will to really live, and that's a really dangerous place to be in, because once you do lose that will, once you do lose like a sense of purpose and you don't care, then like what are you really living for? It's just why are you alive? And you question these things like, if is life even worth living? Like why should I even care about anything at all? And so, especially during those trials and times when um things just really felt difficult and really felt like the world was coming down, um when I just resort to being apathetic to things, and it just made me get to a really negative place where I just didn't want to do anything. And, um, you know, deep down inside, I realized like having that kind of being in that apathetic state, it's just like, I know it's not good. Like, how could I still be breathing and waking up every day when I don't have a care in the world to want to do anything? So it's um deep down you just got to ask yourself like, well, why, at its very core when addressing it, it's like, why am I living? Like what's the point of living? Is there a real purpose in my life? And that's where, you ask these existential questions. You really go deep, and at your core of your soul, you ask like, what is it that I need to do, and why is it that I really feel this way? And if this is really an issue, then I should address it and I should do something about it, rather than just being in the state where I am alive, but I'm acting as if like I'm not. And so, um, yeah, when you're full of apathy, you don't want to do anything. You don't want to maybe work. You don't want to like go to school, do your schoolwork. You don't want to exercise or pursue your interests and hobbies or even hang out with friends. So you just don't essentially want to live life, because those are things that you do in life, right? And so I definitely been in those places where what it really looks like is you're just probably by yourself. You're probably at home, probably doing a whole lot of nothing and being very unproductive, but you don't care because you're just full of apathy. You just, for whatever reason, it's just other things that you need to do aren't just worth doing. And so, again, that's a very dangerous place to be in, because you question on whether you really want to live or not. And so that I feel like is probably apathy at its most extreme case, right? At its worst state. I mean, you could have smaller scales where you're just like very apathetic to certain things, like you don't really want to exercise because it's too much work, or maybe like there's like goals that you set for yourself, but you don't really want to do it because you just don't really care about it. You don't have that drive, like it did for you before. It is an emotional state where it's just like, um, where it could affect the smaller tasks that you set for yourself. But yeah, it really just affects your will. And if you don't really have that will and desire, then um, it's hard to act and do the things that you set yourself to do. And that's just speaking on the individual for your own task, for the things uh, that is set for you. But what about apathy when it comes to other people? Because obviously we're all social creatures and we all communicate with one another. We all interact, and when we do our jobs, when we pursue our hobbies or volunteer and all that, it involves other people. And so you develop relationships too. And apathy, how it looks like with other people is like, when they're talking about their own needs, when they're talking about their own day, I mean, you could just not care about that either. Or you could just not even care to have conversations with people. And you could be so apathetic that you would just even avoid social interactions. And um, your body language could also show how apathetic you are. Just not giving a smile when you greet people, or just giving very brief answers and not really exchanging in extensive dialogue, like things like that are really signs of showing apathy when it comes to interacting or socializing with other people. And that that aspect too of apathy was a huge struggle in my life too. And obviously during those stretches where it was those down times, like I wouldn't even want to interact with people either. I want to do the minimum interactions with people, and like maybe you had opportunities to hang out with friends and you're just not really feeling it because you're so apathetic. You're just like, oh, I just don't care. I don't care. I don't have the energy. I just want to stay home and I want to do a whole lot of nothing. And when you do that, you miss out on like opportunities where you could be there for your friend, because you realize it's not just about yourself, but your friends maybe going through things too, and they need that support. But I think for me, because I didn't have a lot of like emotional support or uh encouragement like that, because it was strange and I didn't have enough of that, it was hard for me to show that as well. So uh because it was hard for me to show it, it tended to look like I was very apathetic to other people's needs through relationships. And especially to my family too, because you know and it's not to say like they didn't care for me, but um like I said, because they weren't that involved, it could be portrayed as if they didn't care. And so my way in response was like, why should I care too about like my family or some of my friends, um, when it seems portrayed like, oh, there's not much support for me. But the thing is too, it's like if you're so it works both ways, like it's reciprocated. So being if you start off not caring about yourself or not caring about others, and being apathetic to both yourself and to other people, then those around you are more likely to not care about what you do, right? Of course, there's like great people out there who are so loving, caring, and so compassionate because they have it in them, and it comes from a great family background and support and great relationships, and also from very, very good core values that they live by. And so, maybe those people will still continue to show compassion even though you may be apathetic. And um, definitely had those people around me too, and really influenced me to not want to be apathetic. And it's not as if I didn't care about things, it's not that, I didn't care for my family and my friends, but I just had, it just was a struggle for me. It was a struggle for me that at the time when I was younger, I didn't know how to deal with apathy. I knew what it was, in some sense. I understood what was going on, but it's just I understood at some extent, but at the same time I didn't grasp the whole thing, or um how to really deal with it. I think that's the thing I couldn't pinpoint, is how do I get myself to just get out of this place, right? And because being apathetic was kind of like the go-to defense mechanism, it's so easy for me to revert to that rather than caring and dealing with things face on, and um, accepting encouragement, accepting support, rather than going through things alone and just not caring about it at all. And that's definitely a huge growing process that over time I had to really grasp and understand and learn how to deal with. And even to this day, I just got to learn how to be aware that sometimes I'm being apathetic, and maybe I just need to change that and learn to show more compassion for things, or be motivated to switch things up, to make sure I do the things that I need to do. And it's not always about what I feel, but holding on to like a conviction or truth that this is still something like a task or goals that I need to do, because I committed to it, or I need to care for this person. I need to be there, even though, um, or I need to, fulfill my commitments, or things that I'm obligated to do, because maybe I made some promises, or maybe I made a important commitment. So that's where that truth and conviction really overrides, like, sometimes, of just those feelings, especially those feelings of apathy. And some, maybe a lot of times too, especially with interacting with people, I kind of have to warm up a little bit. It might have to take me a while to kind of get myself started and start caring again, um and not be at this place where you just don't care about things. And so I've gotten to a point where I'm aware that sometimes I can be at the state, and it's still hard, because like a lot of times it just feels really natural for me to be apathetic to things, to not care, or to not care about like what's going on in like my community and to people around me. But just kind of remind myself, like, that's not what I'm about, and I should care about things, and I should care about those, for people who do care about me. And even though it may not seem like it, like, maybe they're not, maybe people don't show as much compassion towards me, I gotta do it, because that's just what I live by. It's just caring for people, loving people, and I can't do that if I'm just not gonna act upon um, my convictions, or my beliefs, my values. And so I come to understand that as I got older, and not to give in to being this apathetic state. And a lot of times too, like even if you may feel apathy, just being able to do it or talk to people or do the to-do list of things that you need to do, even though you may not feel like it and you still feel apathy, the fact that you got started and still interacted with people, still tell people um that you care about them, that you're here for them, or even helping someone out that's in need, that needs help, or a random act of kindness, you still do it even despite feeling a certain way. Like the fact that you still did it uh helps deal with that apathy, and will probably propel you to just um be more caring and be more compassionate towards yourself and towards people. um So even though you may not feel like it, the fact that you just do it says a lot, right? And it still goes a long way. And maybe eventually you just eh, sticking to the habit of just still doing it, still following through on what you need to do. Um, it'll probably help you get out of that apathetic state. Because if you're not gonna care about yourself, if you're not gonna show interest in yourself, if you're not gonna show interest to others, um, then you're just really telling yourself that you don't want to live life. And is that a life worth living? And so when you tell yourself things like that, when you remind yourself of that, you realize there's no point in really being apathetic. And again, it's a huge struggle. It's a struggle for me. I still struggle with it, but I realize it's not just about that emotion. Um and you should care for things, even when things may not be going your way, when things uh are challenging and they become hard. um maybe just sharing that with people, with your loved ones, and and trying to seek encouragement from people. I think that really helps a lot, and it help you get through those tough times rather than being reclusive and just not caring about things. And so, a lot of times too, it can be a day to day struggle, but you gotta at least try, right? And you gotta at least put forth effort into doing these tasks, into wanting to help people, um, and hold on to those convictions of desiring to make yourself better, to make other people better, and to care about yourself, to care about them. And when you hold on to that, I think it will pull you through those states of apathy, and um, help you fight against that. So I think again for me, it's just like I have core values and core beliefs, especially in my faith, where I feel as if I'm called to want to love and care for others. And it's not an easy thing to do. And a lot of times, the natural thing to do is, or the easy thing to do is just to not care because it doesn't require a lot of effort. But is that the type of truth that I want to hold on to? Uh, no, not really. I feel it a lot more fulfilling and a lot more rewarding when I do care for people, when I do care about things that I do for myself, and also the things that I do for others. And so those are my experiences. I hope that makes sense of how kind of apathy plays into our lives, and what we need to do to be combative against that. And so I offer encouragement to you guys to not be in that apathetic state, but uh it's okay to care for things, even though a lot of times it may feel good at the end of the day, and a lot of times it might not feel as good, but you rather care than to not care at all. You'd rather be a human being and deal with these things in life and show support to others too, and be invested in other people's lives than to not care about them, because we all go through the same thing, and we can't go through all these things. We can't go through life alone. We all need each other, and we can't be there for one another if we don't care, if we have apathy holding us back. So thank you guys so much, man. Really appreciate the support. Again, trying to put up as much podcast episodes as I can in these 30 days. And so I will look to put out more content soon. Drop a subscribe to this channel, drop a like for this video, and hit the notification button to be notified of more uploads. I will see you guys on the next episode. Peace.